This is Dan Dicks here reporting for Press for Truth with breaking news today as the World Economic Forum now believes that right-wing extremism is the new wave of global terrorism. And in this article, they try to make the claim that essentially right-wingers are going to be the new ISIS. So in this video, we're going to explain who's actually behind all of this, and we'll get into the truth about the coming new wave of global terrorism. But before we do, guys, I'd ask that you check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Here you can contribute PayPal, Bitcoin, become a patron, use other cryptocurrencies, or you can send an e-transfer, or if you like old-fashioned cash, you can do so here as well. Links are located in the description below. All right, so we're going to dive right into this, guys. This is just unbelievable stuff here that we're going to unpack coming from the World Economic Forum. It says here, in April of 2020, the United Nations Secretary General, António Guterres, I don't know how to pronounce that, addressed members of the Security Council by warning them that the COVID-19 pandemic could threaten global peace and security. Well, okay, right off the top, guys, let's make this straight. The COVID-19 pandemic is not what is going to threaten global peace and security. It's the government's response to COVID-19 that is the true threat to global peace and security. So let's just get that straight. It says if the health crisis was not managed effectively, he feared that its negative economic consequences, along with mismanaged government response, would provide an opportunity for white supremacists, right-wing extremists, and others to promote division, social unrest, and even violence to achieve their objectives? First of all, where does this even come from? The idea that it's white supremacists who are going to be doing this, and right-wing extremists. Guys, in the post-COVID-19 '84 nightmare that we're all living in, it's only violence coming from the left that I'm seeing, from groups like Black Lives Matter, who are really operating more like a terrorist organization than any kind of social justice movement. You look at all the videos and clips of these guys just terrorizing white people, demanding them to raise the fist, flipping their tables at restaurants, and interrupting their dinner. These guys are the terrorists. And look at Antifa on the far left, going around causing all sorts of violence in the post-COVID-19 '84 world. These are things we can see. I could go over all the clips, but no. Here they're saying it's white supremacist right-wingers. It continues here. In early October 2020, less than a month before the United Federal Election, the FBI thwarted an alleged terrorism plot by right-wing extremists to kidnap the Michigan governor, storm the state capitol building, and commit acts of violence against law enforcement. Where have I heard this before? I've heard this many, many times, guys. Let's look at the article that's referencing this foiled terror plot. 13 men charged in alleged plot to kidnap the governor. It says here, U.S. agents foiled a stunning plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. In reaction to what the suspects viewed as her uncontrolled power. And I'll put links to all of this stuff in the description below, guys, so you can read it all for yourself. But, you know, just to jump to the crux of the matter here, we see here the government used informants and undercover agents to thwart the alleged plot. Guys, I cannot tell you and stress enough how many times this is a tactic used by the government, by criminal elements within the intelligence communities. This is how they get things done. In fact, if you go to altcensored.com, where all of my videos have been backed up before I was terminated, and you just do a search for Press for Truth plot. I just tried this earlier, and I just searched Press for Truth plot, and we got all these videos. The Bill S7 and the root causes of terrorism, Canada Day foiled terror plot or CSIS setup, Operation Smooth, the Canadian connection to global terrorism. Over here, Canadian foiled terror plot and the intelligence communities. Breaking, terror cell exposed as Canadian government operation. Goes on and on, manipulating masses through fear. The Strathroy bomber, another foiled terror plot. Canadian terror plot exposed as RCMP setup here in this one. Via rail terror plot exposed. It just goes on and on, guys. What you're not being told about the new trial for the Via Rail foiled terror plot. I've been reporting on this so much over the years. Here, bombshell report. Transactions reveal Nova Scotia shooter may have been RCMP informant or agent. Guys, it goes on and on and on. This is a common tactic that the intelligence community uses to basically use informants to set up, shape, and mold and coerce a bunch of kind of low-life individuals who are, kind of, maybe broke or not in a good position. And they start supporting them financially, and they start giving them ideas and suggesting them these things, and saying, hey, why don't we kidnap the governor, and really kind of get these guys to start to maybe think that maybe it's a decent idea. And then when they have enough on them, they flip the switch and say, haha, we foiled this terror plot. Time and time again, guys, it's almost always a complete setup. Let's continue. Their aim, according to the court documents, was to start a civil war leading to societal collapse. To date, 14 men have been arrested on charges of terrorism and other related crimes. Where do we hear that number before? 14. Remember when I exposed the truth behind the Toronto 14, or the Toronto 18, I should say, in this video, conditioning Canadians for the war on terror. And somewhere in this video, I break down that actual this guy, the informant who set up the alleged terrorists in Toronto. It goes on and on, guys. I've been exposing this for such a long time, and now we're seeing how the World Economic Forum is trying to suggest that it's actually real, legit, bona fide white supremacists and right-wing extremists, when really, guys, it's the criminal elements within the intelligence communities that are doing all of this. The FBI recently briefed U.S. senators on the evolving concerns of domestic violent extremism. Groups whose ideological goals to commit violence stem from domestic influences, such as social movements like Me Too, Black Lives Matter, and government policies. The composition of many of these organizations are right-wing terror groups whose grievances are rooted in racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, anti-LGBTQ sentiments, Islamophobia, and perceptions of government overreach. Given the wide range of grievances, these groups are defined as being complex, with overlapping viewpoints from similarly minded individuals advocating different but related ideologies. And here's where things get kind of comical. Toxic masculinity. Feminist researchers believe the rise of disenfranchised middle-class white males is leading to increased toxic masculinity within society. Yeah, well, obviously, if feminist researchers believe that, of course they're going to be pushing that. And it's just funny when talking about all of this, claiming it's the violent right-wing racist extremists who are the problem here, when all I've seen is BLM Antifa feminists on the attack. Like, I have a prime example. Here, I tweeted this out a little while ago. The angry white feminist female faces of Black Lives Matter.
Get out of here! You are disgusting.
This is when they were surrounding me, attacking me,
You are a racist.
calling me racist.
Stop filming. You stop filming. Stop
And
filming.
I was surrounded by a gaggle of these feminists, and they got violent. They were physically violent with me. Yeah, anyways, again, links to all of this will be located in the description below, guys, but you want to see where the real problem is stemming from, just to watch some of my videos. Goes on here, this is a valid concern with plenty of evidence to support it, concerning their idea of toxic masculinity. According to the University of Maryland Global Terrorism Database, there were 310 terrorist attacks resulting in 316 deaths, excluding perpetrators in the U.S. From 2015 to 2018. Most were right-wing extremists, including white nationalists and other right-wing movement members. This alt-right movement also contains the incel, involuntarily celibate members, who are a growing threat to women. But the increase in right-wing terrorism is not just a U.S. problem. The UN Security Council Counterterrorism Committee says there's been a 320% increase in right-wing terrorism globally in the last 5 years. Recent terror attacks in New Zealand, Germany, Norway are indicators of this trend. The Center for Research of Extremism at the University of Oslo reports that both Spain and Greece are growing hotbeds of right-wing terrorism and violence. Canada isn't immune to these violent extremist ideologies. Many sympathizers to these causes reside in Canada, and as such, there is always a risk for attacks. And in fact, I pointed that out in this video right here. Proof Canada is importing terror. Edmonton attack exposed. Again, please check the link for all the descriptions to all this stuff, guys. It says here, right-wing extremism is such a concern that when the top international security policy makers met in the 2019 Munich Security Conference, they ranked it among space security, climate security, and emerging technologies as the top global security threats. And I went and pulled it up. Here it is from June of 2019. Right-wing extremism, white and wrong. And again, links for all of this will be in the description below. But I found this part interesting, essentially where they talk about like deplatforming guys like me. While right-wing extremists also connect offline, the internet plays a central role in breeding and amplifying extremist thought, frequently outpacing jihadist extremists in the use and reach of social media posts. Right-wing extremists strongly rely on internet platforms to communicate and disseminate their ideas. With the increased takedowns of extremist content by platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, I've been taken down from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Do you guys think I'm an extremist? Right-wing extremists have shifted more and more to encrypted apps like Telegram, Discord, as well as unregulated platforms like 8chan or Gab. These far corners of the internet also decisively contribute to self-radicalization processes. So just thought I'd show you that. Thought that was interesting. It goes on. It would appear as though the world is at the dawn of a new age of terrorism that's different from before. Famed terrorism researcher David Rappaport argued in his influential thesis, The Four Waves of Rebel Terror and September 11, that modern terrorism can be categorized into four distinct waves. The first anarchist wave began in the 1880s in Russia. With the Narodная Volia, the people's will, conducted assassinations of political leaders. It continued until the 1920s, spreading across the Balkans and eventually into the West, influencing the creation of new terror groups within the different countries. The 1920s saw the beginning of the anti-colonial wave coming out of the remnants of the First World War, when groups like the Irish Republican Army, the IRA, began using ambush tactics against police and military targets to force political change. In the 60s, the new left wave was created. This third wave emerged from the perceived oppression of Western countries within the developing world, like Vietnam and Middle East. Its tactics included plane hijackings, embassy attacks, and kidnappings perpetrated by groups like the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. Finally, in the 1990s, witnessed the birth of religious wave, in which terror groups like Al-Qaeda used religious ideology as a justification to overthrow secular governments within the martyrdom tactics like suicide bombings. What all these waves have in common is that they last for decades and become infectious over time. No, actually, what all these things have in common, and which is the real crux of my video here, guys, is that the secret intelligence communities were behind all of this. All of it. It's the CIA. It's the FBI. Criminal elements within these intelligence communities, of course, who have been the ones behind all of this throughout history. Just like we're seeing with the recent foiled terror plots, it's the same with the creation of Al-Qaeda, for example. The entire organization of Al-Qaeda was birthed from the CIA as a means to create the big bad boogeyman that you have to be afraid of so they can step in and be this humanitarian saviors by taking down secular dictators all over the world and instilling their own system of democracy in the Middle East. That's been the goal of the CIA and the FBI, who have been responsible for all of this stuff, guys. So when they get into this, the fifth wave now, well, this brings us to today's right-wing terrorism. Already, observers have signaled the decline of violent Islamic movements and the rise of far-right extremist activities. Is right-wing violent extremism the new fifth wave of modern terrorism? There's another good point, guys. What did COVID-19 84 somehow eradicate ISIS? Have you guys not noticed that, you know, that's just kind of disappeared from the mainstream talking narrative, the fear state coming from the television, talk of terrorism, global terrorism? That's so 2019. You know, COVID-19 is the new thing to be afraid of. Guys, do you think terrorism just disappeared? Do you think jihadists just stopped doing it? No. The fact is, there isn't a huge, large sect of violent jihadists that you have to be worried about. There's a very small portion, but nothing compared to what the mainstream has been saying, which is why we're not seeing these things happening today. Because the majority of the times that they do happen, it's coming directly at the hands of the government. So it says here, the fifth wave being modern terrorism. If so, there's no doubt the negative societal impacts of COVID-19 will only help accelerate the radicalization of its adherents. And if the duration of previous four waves have taught us anything, it's that this new one could be around for many, many more years to come. And I guess I would have to agree to one extent that there is a new wave of global terrorism, and they certainly may use right-wing extremism as the new boogeyman in order to carry these things out. And just based on my experience, guys, of covering these things for over 2 decades now, that's how I see it. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. I want to encourage you to watch this one, Conditioning Canadians for the War on Terror. I released that in July of 2013, and it's still extremely relevant today and important for you to understand. I'd also encourage you to check this out. We have a new campaign here to save the press, Operation Save the Press for Truth. As you may or may not know, the Canadian government has been granting anti-hate groups hundreds of thousands of dollars to take people like me down, and they've been effectively being able to do that, take me down on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and MailChimp and GoFundMe. So if you want to contribute to helping me fight back against this blatant censorship, please check out gogetfunding.com/Operation Save the Press. So that's all for today, guys. Just wanted to bring this to your attention that the World Economic Forum now thinks that right-wing extremism is going to be the new global wave of terrorism. I think it is as well, but it's not going to be bona fide and legit. It's going to be coming at the hands of the intelligence communities, the criminal elements within the intelligence communities who are going to continue to foil these so-called right-wing alleged, extremist plots. But don't buy it, guys. Anytime you're looking into these things, always remember, suspect number one should always be the government. Click the thumbs up button, share this video if you agree, and stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.